Introduction. Welcome. If you are listening to this right now, something inside you already knows that your life is capable of more. Something inside you is restless, quietly hungry, searching for the thing that will finally tip the scales in your favor. And I want you to know, before we go any further, that you have found it. Not because this audiobook is magic, not because the words you are about to hear contain some secret formula that nobody has ever shared before, but because the morning, your morning, has always been the most powerful and most wasted resource in your entire life. And today, that changes. Before we dive in, if this is your first time here, I want to ask you to do something simple. Hit that subscribe button right now. Not later, right now. Because everything we are going to talk about in this audiobook is built on one principle, and that principle is this: the people who win in life are the people who do the small things immediately, without hesitation, without waiting for the perfect moment. Subscribing takes 2 seconds. Winning at life takes a decision. Make both of them today. Now, let us begin. Every single day, the sun rises. It does not ask permission. It does not wait until it feels motivated. It does not hit snooze. It rises without fail, with power, with consistency, with absolute commitment to its purpose. And every single morning, you are given a choice. You can rise with it, or you can let the day begin without you. Most people let the day begin without them. They wake up late. They scroll through their phones in bed. They skip breakfast. They rush out the door with a cup of coffee in one hand and anxiety in the other. And they spend the rest of the day feeling like they are already behind. And the cruel truth is, they are behind. Not because life is unfair, not because they are unlucky, but because they handed over the most powerful hours of their day before they ever truly woke up. The most successful people in the world, the leaders, the builders, the creators, the people whose names you say when you talk about someone you admire, they all have one thing in common that almost nobody talks about. It is not their intelligence. It is not their connections. It is not even their talent. It is what they do between the moment they open their eyes and the moment the rest of the world starts demanding things from them. It is their morning. This audiobook is going to walk you through exactly how to build a morning that does not just set the tone for your day, but sets the trajectory of your entire life. By the time you finish listening, you will not just understand why your morning matters. You will feel it. And, more importantly, you will know exactly what to do about it. Let us go. Chapter 1. The Hour That Changes Everything. There is an hour in every morning that most people sleep through, and that hour is where everything begins. Think about the last time you woke up before your alarm. Maybe it was the light coming through the curtains. Maybe it was a sound outside. Maybe it was just that strange, quiet alertness that sometimes arrives in the early hours of the morning for no clear reason at all. And in that moment, before you checked your phone, before you thought about work, before the weight of the day landed on your chest, there was something there. A kind of clarity, a stillness, a sense that you and the world were briefly, beautifully in balance. That is the hour we are talking about. That is the hour that changes everything. Science has a name for what happens in your brain during the first 60 to 90 minutes after you wake up. Your brain is operating in a state of low alpha and high theta waves, which is almost identical to the hypnagogic state between sleep and wakefulness. In practical terms, what this means is that your subconscious mind is still open. The analytical, critical, skeptical part of your brain that spends most of the day putting up walls and doubting everything has not fully switched on yet. You are, in a very real neurological sense, more open to suggestion, more creative, more emotionally connected to your deeper values and goals during these first waking minutes than at any other point in your day. And what do most people do with this extraordinary neurological window? They fill it with notifications. They fill it with news. They fill it with other people's opinions and other people's problems and other people's emergencies. They hand over the most receptive hours of their mind to algorithms designed to trigger anxiety and comparison and outrage. And then they wonder why they feel scattered and stressed before they have even had breakfast. The people who have figured out morning mastery do something completely different. They treat that first hour as sacred. They guard it with the same intensity that a surgeon guards their hands before an operation. They understand that what goes into your mind during those first waking moments shapes the entire emotional and psychological architecture of your day. And so, they are deliberate. They are intentional. They choose what enters that space because they understand that the choice is not a luxury. It is the difference between a day that drives them and a day that they drive. Now here is something I want you to really sit with for a moment. The most common reason people give for not having a morning routine is time. They say they do not have enough time. They say their schedule does not allow it. They say they would need to wake up earlier, and they are already not getting enough sleep. And I understand that. I really do. Life is busy. Responsibilities are real. But I want you to consider something. You already have a morning routine. Everyone does. The question is not whether you have one. The question is whether yours is working for you or against you. If your current routine involves hitting snooze 3 times, scrolling social media, skipping breakfast, and rushing to get dressed while mentally compiling everything you are stressed about, then you have a morning routine. It is just not one that is building the life you want. The hour that changes everything does not require you to wake up at 4 in the morning. It does not require a perfect quiet house or a meditation cushion or a green juice. It requires a decision. A single, clear, committed decision that you are going to stop letting your most powerful hour disappear into noise, and instead use it to build something. To build focus. To build energy. To build the version of yourself that you know you are capable of becoming. Every empire was built one brick at a time. Every mountain was climbed one step at a time. And every extraordinary life was built one morning at a time. This is your first brick. This is your first step. And this is your morning. Chapter 2. Why successful people wake up early and what they actually do. Let us talk about the alarm clock. Specifically, let us talk about what happens the moment it goes off. Because that single moment, the moment between the alarm and your response to it, reveals more about the trajectory of your life than almost anything else. Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." People have been saying some version of that for centuries. And for centuries, people have also been rolling over and going back to sleep, convincing themselves that the quote does not really apply to them. But here is what modern research has actually confirmed about early rising. It is not just folk wisdom. It is biology. Your cortisol levels, the hormone responsible for alertness, energy, and mental sharpness, naturally peak in the morning. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it happens within the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking up. Your body is literally flooding itself with the chemicals of alertness and motivation in those early morning minutes. When you sleep through this window, you miss the natural peak of your body's own performance-enhancing chemistry. You are sleeping through your body's free daily dose of drive. Now, the successful people we admire, and I mean genuinely successful, not just financially wealthy, but deeply fulfilled, productive, and purposeful. They wake up early for reasons that go beyond just getting more hours in the day. They wake up early because the morning offers something the rest of the day cannot: complete ownership. Think about what your day looks like once other people enter it. Your phone starts buzzing. Emails arrive. Your boss needs something. Your family has requests. Traffic happens. Meetings run long. Deadlines shift. The entire afternoon and evening of most people's days is a negotiation between what they intended to do and what the world is demanding of them. But the morning, especially the early morning, belongs to you. Nobody is emailing you at 5 in the morning. Nobody is texting you at 5:30. The world has not yet woken up to tell you what it needs. That window is yours, completely and entirely yours, to use as you see fit. And what do the most successful people actually do with that window? This is where it gets interesting. Because if you look at the morning routines of the world's highest performers, you will find a remarkable consistency in the categories of activity, even when the specific activities differ. They move their bodies, not always in a gym, not always intensely. Some run, some do yoga, some walk, some stretch for 15 minutes in their living room. But almost universally, they do something physical before the demands of the day begin. Because physical movement triggers a cascade of neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, that literally reconfigure your brain for focus, creativity, and emotional resilience. They feed their minds with intention. They read books that expand their thinking. They journal. They review their goals. They listen to content that challenges and inspires them. They do not let the first content their brain encounters be reactive or shallow. They choose something that grows them. They sit in silence. This might be the most countercultural habit of all in a world addicted to noise. But the research on meditation, stillness, and even just quiet reflection is overwhelming. 10 minutes of intentional silence in the morning measurably reduces stress hormones, improves decision-making, and increases emotional regulation throughout the entire day. They eat with intention. They hydrate first thing, because after 7 or 8 hours without water, the body is mildly dehydrated, and even mild dehydration measurably impacts cognitive performance. They eat breakfast, not out of habit, but as a deliberate act of fueling the machine they are about to run hard. And finally, they plan, not obsessively. Not with rigid, inflexible schedules, but with clarity. They look at their day and they identify the 1 or 2 or 3 things that absolutely must happen for this day to count as a success. They set that intention before the noise begins, so that when the noise begins, they already know what they are fighting to protect. Now, before we go any further, I want to pause right here and ask you something. If what you just heard resonated with you, if you felt that pull of recognition, that quiet knowing that your mornings could be doing so much more for you, then I want you to leave a comment right now telling me what your biggest morning struggle is. Is it waking up early? Is it staying off your phone? Is it feeling motivated to exercise? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below, because in this community, we grow together. We solve these things together. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And there is power in that. Chapter 3. The Science of Habit and Why You're Morning. Not your dreams, not your intentions, not your talent, your habits. The small, automatic, largely unconscious patterns of behavior that you repeat every single day without thinking about them. Those are what have shaped your body, your relationships, your finances, your mindset, and the quality of your daily experience. Habits are not accessories to your life. They are the architecture of it. In the early 1990s, a team of researchers at MIT began studying habit formation in rats, using a maze with a piece of chocolate hidden at the end. When a rat first entered the maze, its brain was firing intensely, taking in information, exploring, making decisions. But as the rat learned the route, something fascinating happened. The brain activity did not stay high. It actually dropped. The brain began to chunk the sequence of behaviors into a single automatic unit, freeing up processing power for other things. By the time the rat had learned the maze completely, its brain barely engaged with the route at all. It had become a habit. The same thing happens in the human brain. Every habit, whether it is brushing your teeth or checking your phone or hitting snooze or doing your morning run, follows the same neurological loop. A cue triggers a routine, and the routine delivers a reward. The brain loves efficiency, and habits are the brain's ultimate efficiency strategy. Once a habit is formed, it requires almost no conscious effort. It just happens. This is wonderful news when your habits are building you up, and it is devastating news when your habits are tearing you down. Because the brain does not distinguish between good habits and bad ones. It just automates whatever pattern gets repeated consistently enough. Now here is where the morning becomes the master key. Research in behavioral science has consistently shown that willpower is a finite resource. Like a muscle, it fatigues with use. Every decision you make throughout the day, every temptation you resist, every difficult conversation you navigate, every moment of discipline you exercise draws from that same reservoir of willpower. And by the evening, most people are running on empty. This is why people who would never eat junk food at 9 in the morning find themselves reaching for it at 9 at night. Their willpower tank is depleted. But here is the crucial insight. Habits do not require willpower. They are automatic. And the habits you build into your morning, before your willpower has been depleted by the demands of the day, are the ones most likely to actually stick. Because you are building them in the hours when your resistance is lowest, your mind is clearest, and your intention is strongest. This is why morning rituals are so disproportionately powerful. Every good habit you anchor to your morning becomes automatic faster, sustains longer, and compounds more dramatically than the same habit attempted at any other time of day. Your morning is not just a time of day. It is the soil in which your best habits grow. James Clear, who wrote one of the most important books on habits in recent memory, talks about the concept of habit stacking, linking a new habit to an existing one so that the established habit becomes the cue for the new one. And the morning is the ultimate habit stacking environment because the morning itself is a sequence of natural cues. Waking up leads to getting out of bed. Getting out of bed leads to entering the bathroom. Entering the bathroom leads to whatever comes next. Each moment is a doorway, and each doorway is an opportunity to stack something extraordinary. The most successful people have unconsciously or deliberately built their mornings into a sequence of stacked habits that automatically move them through exercise, nourishment, reflection, planning, and learning before the rest of the world has even had its first cup of coffee. And because these things are habitual, they do not feel like effort. They feel like breathing. They feel like who they are. That is what we are building here. Not a routine, not a schedule, an identity. Because the deepest level of habit change is not changing what you do. It is changing who you believe yourself to be. When you believe you are the kind of person who wakes up with purpose and intention, you stop fighting your morning. You start becoming it. Chapter 4. Building your power. Morning, one ritual at a time. We have talked about why the morning matters. We have talked about what successful people do and why habits are the architecture of your life. Now we are going to get practical. Right here, right now, we are going to build your morning piece by piece so that when you wake up tomorrow, you know exactly what you are doing and exactly why. The first ritual is what I call the first 5. the moment your alarm goes off, before you look at your phone, before you speak a word, before your feet even hit the floor, you take 5 slow, deep breaths. This is not a wellness trend. This is neuroscience. Deep, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces cortisol, slows your heart rate, and shifts your brain from the fight or flight alertness of waking up to a state of calm, focused readiness. 5 breaths. That is all. But those 5 breaths tell your nervous system that today is not an emergency. Today is an opportunity. After the first 5, you get out of bed immediately, not after 1 more minute. Not after checking the time to see if you have to. Immediately. The research on this is clear. The longer you stay in bed after waking, the harder it is to transition into an alert, focused state. The snooze button is not your friend. Every time you hit snooze, you begin a new sleep cycle that your alarm then interrupts again, leaving you more groggy, not less. Getting up immediately is a declaration. It is your first act of discipline in the day, and that first act of discipline makes every subsequent act of discipline easier. The second ritual is hydration. Before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, drink a full glass of water. Your body has gone 7 or 8 hours without hydration. Every cell in your body, including every neuron in your brain, is mildly thirsty. Water wakes up your metabolism, jumpstarts your digestive system, and improves cognitive function more quickly than caffeine. You can have your coffee, but water comes first. The third ritual is movement. This does not have to be an hour at the gym. It does not have to be a marathon. It has to be something. 20 minutes of walking, 15 minutes of stretching, 10 minutes of bodyweight exercises. The goal is not peak physical fitness, though that will come over time. The goal is neurochemical activation. You are using your body to prime your brain. The endorphins, dopamine, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor released during even moderate exercise are the closest thing to a cognitive superpower that exists. People who exercise in the morning report higher energy, better mood, sharper focus, and greater creativity for the rest of the day, every day, without exception. The fourth ritual is silence and stillness. After movement, before you engage with any content from the outside world, you sit quietly for a minimum of 10 minutes. You can call this meditation if you want. You can call it prayer, reflection, centering, stillness. The name does not matter. What matters is that you are choosing to be present with your own thoughts before you allow the world's noise to enter. You can focus on your breathing. You can visualize your day going exactly the way you want it to go. You can think about what you are grateful for. You can simply observe your thoughts without engaging them. But you sit, you breathe, and you are quiet. In a world that never stops talking, the discipline of silence is a superpower. The fifth ritual is learning. This is where you feed your mind with something that grows you. Read 10 pages of a book that challenges you. Listen to a podcast that teaches you something new. Watch a documentary that expands your perspective. Review your goals and affirmations. Write in your journal. The specific form matters less than the intention. You are choosing to input something valuable before the day inputs something reactive. You are deciding what your mind thinks about before the world decides for you. The sixth and final ritual is planning. Before you engage with any external demands, you take 5 to 10 minutes to look at your day and identify your most important priorities, not your task list, not your inbox, your priorities. The things that, if accomplished, will make today genuinely meaningful. Write them down, commit to them, and then carry that commitment with you into the rest of the day as your anchor. First 5 breaths. Immediate rising. Hydration. Movement. Stillness. learning, planning. 6 rituals. Depending on how long you spend on each, the whole sequence can take as little as 45 minutes or as long as 2 hours. You customize it to fit your life. But every single component serves a purpose, and every single component has been shown, in research and in practice, to produce measurable improvements in performance, well-being, and life satisfaction. Start small if you need to. Add one ritual at a time. Build it over 30 days until it is automatic. Then add the next. You are not running a sprint here. You are building a life. And lives are built slowly, brick by brick, morning by morning. And hey, while we are here, if you are finding value in this audiobook, I would love it if you shared it with someone who needs it. Think about one person in your life right now who is struggling with motivation, who feels stuck, who wakes up every morning already feeling behind. Share this with them. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for someone we love is not to tell them things will be okay. It is to hand them a tool that actually helps. Be that person for someone today. Chapter 5. The Enemy Within, Overcoming Resistance, Excuses, and the Snooze Button Mindset. Let us talk about the real enemy. It is not your alarm. It is not your schedule. It is not even the warm, comfortable pull of your pillow at 5:30 in the morning, when the rest of the house is dark and quiet, and everything inside you is screaming that staying in bed is the more reasonable choice. The real enemy is resistance. And resistance lives inside you. Steven Pressfield, in his landmark book, The War of Art, describes resistance as the invisible, internal force that opposes any act of creation, discipline, or growth. He says resistance is not a peripheral nuisance. It is the primary obstacle between the life we are living and the life we are capable of living. And resistance is never louder, never more persuasive, never more creative in its excuses than it is at the moment you are supposed to wake up and begin your morning ritual. Resistance sounds like, I am too tired today. I will start the routine tomorrow. One morning off will not hurt. I am different from those people. My life is more complicated. I do not have time. I already slept late, so the morning is ruined anyway. I will make up for it tonight. It sounds reasonable. It sounds kind, even. Like it is looking out for you. But resistance is not your friend. Resistance is the voice that has been keeping you exactly where you are. Here is the thing that nobody tells you about discipline. It is not the absence of resistance. Discipline is the practice of acting despite resistance. Every person who has ever built a great morning routine felt resistance. Every person who has ever run a marathon felt resistance at some point during their training. Every person who has ever built a business, written a book, transformed their body, or changed their life felt resistance. The difference between the people who succeed and the people who stay stuck is not that the successful ones feel less resistance. It is that they have decided to act anyway. And the single most powerful act of daily resistance to resistance is getting out of bed when your alarm goes off. Because that moment, that one moment of decision, sets the tone for every other decision you will make that day. When you override your body's desire for comfort in the first 5 seconds of your morning, you are not just waking up. You are practicing the skill of overcoming resistance. You are training your brain to recognize that discomfort is not a stop sign. It is a signal that something worthwhile is ahead. Mel Robbins, the author and motivational speaker, developed a concept she calls the 5-second rule. The idea is simple. The moment you have an impulse to do something you know you should do, you count backwards from 5 to 1, and then you move. Before your brain has time to negotiate, before resistance can build its case, before the comfort of inertia can win, you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you act. She developed this concept specifically to deal with her own inability to get out of bed in the morning, and it has since been used by millions of people around the world to override the resistance that stands between them and the life they want. The snooze button mindset, and I want you to really hear this, is not just about sleep. It is a metaphor for how you handle every uncomfortable thing in your life. The person who hits snooze on their alarm is the same person who procrastinates on difficult conversations, who delays starting the business they dream about, who puts off the workout they know they need, who keeps saying someday. Because the snooze button teaches your brain a lesson every single morning. It teaches your brain that when something uncomfortable arrives, the right response is to delay it. And that lesson does not stay in the bedroom. It follows you all day long. Conversely, the person who gets up the first time their alarm rings, every single morning, is training their brain in something far more powerful. They are training it to move immediately when an impulse toward growth arrives. They are building what psychologists call response automaticity, the ability to translate intention into action without hesitation. And that skill, that fundamental skill of acting without delay, is the foundation of every great achievement in human history. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking about the days when you were exhausted, the days when you were up late and you genuinely need more sleep. And I want to be honest with you. Rest is sacred. Recovery is not laziness. Your body needs sleep to repair, consolidate memory, regulate hormones, and support immune function. If you are chronically sleep-deprived, the first solution is not a more intense morning routine. The first solution is getting to bed earlier. Your morning does not begin when your alarm goes off. Your morning begins the night before, with the decision to protect your sleep so that rising early is a gift rather than a punishment. But for most of us, most of the time, the problem is not that we genuinely need more sleep. The problem is that sleep is comfortable and morning is not. And comfort, while wonderful as a destination, is terrible as a permanent address. Chapter 6. Morning Rituals of the World's Greatest Achievers. Throughout history, the most extraordinary humans who have ever lived have had one thing in common that history books rarely mention. They had rituals. Benjamin Franklin began every day by asking himself the same question: what good shall I do this day? He wrote it in his journal, he reflected on it seriously, and he let his answer shape his actions. At the end of each evening, he asked the corresponding question: what good have I done this day? His mornings were not accidental. They were philosophical. They were purposeful. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, began each morning with what we might today call mindfulness journaling. He wrote reflections on virtue, discipline, and the nature of reality. The result of those morning pages, written 2,000 years ago, became the Meditations, a book that has influenced philosophers, leaders, and seekers for 20 centuries. His morning practice was not private journaling. It was the engine of one of the most thoughtful and effective leadership reigns in human history. Oprah Winfrey meditates every morning without exception. She has spoken publicly about the role of morning silence and reflection in building her clarity, her empathy, and the extraordinary ability to connect with people that has defined her career. She does not wake up and immediately check the news. She does not begin her day by responding to what the world wants from her. She begins her day by going inward, finding her center, and choosing her intention. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, wakes up at 3:45 in the morning. He reads user emails first to get a sense of how people are experiencing Apple's products. Then he exercises before the sun is up. He has spoken about the clarity that early rising gives him, the sense of being ahead of the day rather than behind it. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, woke up at 4:30 every morning to walk his dogs and exercise before arriving at the office before anyone else. He said his mornings gave him time to think clearly before the organization's demands began. Starbucks became a global empire. The thinking he did in those early hours was part of how Maya Angelou rented a hotel room to write in every morning. Not a fancy hotel. A simple, bare room with a Bible, a deck of cards, and a legal pad. She arrived at 6:30 and wrote until 2 in the afternoon, completely free of the distractions of her home and her social life. Her morning was a protected sanctuary, and within that sanctuary she produced some of the most powerful literature of the 20th century. Now, what do all of these people have in common? They are all completely different. They wake up at different times. They do different things. They work in different fields. Some meditate. Some write. Some exercise. Some read. But underneath all the differences, there is one absolute constant. They all made the morning theirs. They did not drift into the day. They designed their entrance into it. They understood that how you begin determines how you continue, and how you continue determines where you end up. You do not have to be the CEO of a global company to deserve a powerful morning. You do not have to be a philosopher or a poet or a president. You just have to decide that your day and your life deserve to begin with intention. And that decision is available to you right now, regardless of your circumstances, your schedule, your history, or your current habits. The great achievers did not have better mornings because they were already great. They became great, in part, because they had better mornings. I want to talk about identity, about the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. Because ultimately, that story is what your morning either confirms or challenges. Every morning is a conversation between who you are right now and who you are becoming. Every action you take in those first waking hours is either a vote for the person you want to be or a vote for the person you have been by default. And while a single vote does not decide an election, enough votes, cast consistently, day after day after day, always do. Think about who you would be a year from now if you began every single morning with 5 deep breaths, a full glass of water, 20 minutes of movement, 10 minutes of stillness, 30 minutes of learning, and a clear intention for the day. Think about the compounding of that. Not one morning, 365 mornings. Compounded. Who would you be? What would you have learned? What habits would be automatic in you that right now feel impossible? How much lighter would you feel? How much more confident? How much more in alignment with the life you actually want? The answer is not a mystery. It is arithmetic. Small, consistent actions, taken every day, compound into extraordinary results over time. This is not motivation. This is mathematics. But here is the part that matters most. You do not have to wait a year to feel the difference. You will feel it tomorrow morning. If you implement even one of the rituals we have talked about today, tomorrow morning you will feel different. Not completely transformed, but different. A little more in control. A little more intentional. A little more like the person you are building toward. And that feeling, that small but real shift in how you experience yourself, is the seed of everything. Your future self is not a distant stranger. Your future self is built from the choices your present self makes, starting with the very first choice of every day, how you meet your morning. And I want you to know something. I am not just saying these things to inspire you in the moment and have you forget them by the evening. I want you to carry this with you. I want this audiobook to be the thing you come back to on the hard mornings. On the mornings when resistance is loudest and the pillow is softest and the world feels heaviest. Because those are the mornings that matter most. Those are the mornings where your morning ritual is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. So here is what I want you to do right now, before you close this and go back to your day. I want you to decide. Not think about it. Not plan to decide later. Decide right now. What time are you going to wake up tomorrow? What is the first ritual you are going to add to your morning? And who is one person you are going to share this with? Write those 3 things in the comments below. Your wake-up time, your first ritual, and the name of one person you are sharing this with. I read every comment. I respond to as many as I can. And I want to know how your mornings are changing, because your transformation matters to me. This channel exists because of you, and I want to walk this road with you, one morning at a time. If this audiobook gave you something, if it shifted something in you, even just a little, please like this video. It takes 1 second and it tells the universe and the algorithm that this kind of content deserves to reach more people. There are people out there who need this. People who are struggling, who feel stuck, who have forgotten that they are capable of extraordinary things. Your like helps this find them. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do it right now. Not tomorrow. Now. Because tomorrow morning, when you wake up with your new intention and your new ritual, I want this channel to be waiting for you with the next tool, the next idea, the next conversation that takes you further. That is what we do here. We build great lives, one morning at a time. Conclusion. The sun rose this morning. It did not wait for you to be ready. It did not check whether you deserved it. It simply rose, faithful and certain, as it always does. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, you have a choice. You can pull the covers back over your head and let the day begin without you. Or you can choose, in that one powerful second, to rise with it. You can choose to breathe deeply and move your body and feed your mind and plan your day with intention. You can choose to step into the morning the way a champion steps into a competition, prepared, focused, and hungry for what is possible. You can choose to become someone who masters their morning, and in doing so, you will become someone who masters their life. It begins tomorrow. It begins with one alarm, one deep breath, one glass of water, one step out of bed. It begins with you. Good morning. Chapter 8. The Morning Mind. How to think before the world thinks for you. There is a war happening every single morning, and most people do not even know they are in it. It is not a war fought with weapons or armies. It is quieter than that. More subtle, more personal. It is the war for your attention, and it begins the moment you open your eyes. On one side of this war is you, your goals, your values, your vision for your life, your deepest intentions for who you want to become and what you want to build. On the other side is everything else, the news cycle, the social media feeds, the emails that piled up overnight, the notifications, the opinions, the outrage, the urgency, the noise of a world that never sleeps and never stops demanding your focus. And every single morning, before you have even had time to remember who you are and what you care about, that world is already reaching for you. The people who lose this war do not lose it dramatically. They lose it quietly, one distracted morning at a time. They pick up their phone before they have had a single conscious thought of their own. They read the news before they have set their own intention. They absorb other people's crises, other people's opinions, other people's emotional weather, before they have even checked in with their own. And then they spend the rest of the day reacting, catching up, feeling vaguely anxious and scattered without quite knowing why. The people who win this war understand one fundamental principle: you must think before the world thinks for you. What does that mean in practice? It means that the first thoughts of your day must belong to you. Before you let anything in from the outside, you spend time going inward. You check in with yourself the way a pilot checks the instruments before takeoff. Not because something is wrong, because everything working correctly is too important to assume. Journaling is one of the most powerful tools for this. And I know that when some people hear the word journaling, they immediately think of a teenage diary or a self-help cliché. But journaling, real journaling, is none of those things. It is a cognitive tool. It is a way of using the act of writing to access thoughts and feelings and ideas that exist below the surface of your conscious awareness. When you write by hand in the morning, you are doing something neurologically remarkable. You are activating the reticular activating system, the part of your brain responsible for filtering which information gets your conscious attention. You are literally telling your brain what matters. And your brain responds by noticing more of it throughout the day. There are many ways to journal. Some people write freely, without direction, letting whatever is in their mind pour onto the page. This is often called a brain dump, and it is extraordinarily effective at clearing the mental clutter that accumulates overnight. When you get the noise out of your head and onto paper, your mind becomes quieter, more spacious, more capable of clarity and creativity. Other people journal with prompts. They ask themselves questions and then answer them honestly. Questions like, what am I most grateful for today? What am I most afraid of right now? And is that fear actually protecting me or just limiting me? What is the one thing I could do today that would make everything else easier? Who do I need to become to create the life I want? These are not small questions. They are not easy questions, but they are the questions that, answered honestly and consistently over time, produce a depth of self-knowledge that no external coach or therapist can manufacture for you. You have to mine it yourself. There is also goal journaling, where you write your most important goals in the present tense, as if they are already happening. Not, I want to be financially free, but I am building financial freedom every day with every decision I make. Not, I hope to be healthy, but my body is strong and I treat it with discipline and respect. The reason for writing in the present tense is not magical thinking. It is neuroscience. The brain does not easily distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you write about your goals in the present tense with emotion and specificity, you activate the same neural pathways that would fire if those goals were already your reality. You are rehearsing the mindset of the person you are becoming, and your brain begins to align your perceptions and behaviors with that rehearsed identity. But journaling alone is not enough. The morning mind also requires something that our culture has almost entirely forgotten how to value: deep, uninterrupted thinking. We live in an age of constant intellectual busyness that masquerades as productivity. We are always reading something, listening to something, watching something, responding to something. We consume information at a rate that would have been inconceivable to any previous generation in human history. And yet, for all this input, most people feel less clear, less certain, and less creatively alive than they sense they should be. The reason is that genuine thinking, the kind of thinking that produces original ideas and real insight and meaningful decisions, requires space. It requires silence. It requires the willingness to sit with a question long enough for a real answer to emerge, rather than reaching immediately for the comfort of someone else's answer. Albert Einstein famously spent long stretches of time in what he called thought experiments, sitting still, eyes closed or unfocused, simply thinking, not reading about physics, not discussing it with colleagues, just thinking. He credited this practice with some of his greatest discoveries. Darwin took daily walks alone, not to exercise, but to think. Churchill had his famous morning routine of reading in bed for hours, not for entertainment, but for the nourishment of his analytical mind. What these people understood is that the mind, like the body, needs both input and output. If you only ever input, if you are always consuming without creating, always reading without reflecting, always listening without thinking, your mind becomes a storage unit full of other people's ideas. And a storage unit, however full, cannot produce anything new. So your morning mind practice needs to include some time, even just 15 minutes of genuine solitary thinking. Pick one question, one problem, one idea, and think about it without reaching for your phone, without Googling, without asking anyone else. Just sit with it and let your own mind work on it. You may be astonished by what surfaces when you give your own intelligence the space to actually operate. And here is something I want you to consider deeply. The quality of your life is largely determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Small questions produce small thinking. Safe questions produce safe lives. But bold questions, honest questions, uncomfortable questions, the kind you might have been avoiding for months or even years, those questions, asked consistently in the quiet of your morning, have the power to unlock doors you did not even know were closed. What is the life I truly want, not the life I have settled for? What am I pretending not to know? What would I do if I were not afraid? What kind of person does my future self need me to be starting today? These are not comfortable questions, but comfort and growth live in different zip codes. You cannot have both at the same time. And the morning is when you are most honest, most open, most genuinely yourself before the performance of the day begins. Use that window. Use it to think the thoughts that actually matter. Use it to ask the questions that will move your life. Before we go to the final chapter, I want to take a moment to say something directly to you. If you've been listening to this audiobook all the way through to chapter 8, you are not a casual listener. You are someone who is serious about change. And I respect that enormously. I want to ask you to do something that requires just a little more of that seriousness. Go back and listen to the chapters that hit you hardest. Not just once, multiple times. Because the ideas that stir something in you are the ideas your subconscious is telling you that you need. Honor that signal. Go deeper with it. And if you have not already subscribed and hit the bell notification, please do it right now. Because the conversation we are having here is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing practice. And I want to be in your corner every single week with new ideas, new tools, and new conversations that keep building the life you are working toward. This community is something real, and you belong in it. Chapter 9. The Ripple Effect. How your morning transforms. Everything else. Everything in your life is connected. This is not a spiritual platitude. It is a systems principle. Pull one thread and the whole fabric shifts. Change one variable and the entire equation reconfigures. And the thread that connects to more of your life than any other is the thread you pull first thing every morning. We have spent this entire audiobook talking about the morning, but I want to end by zooming out and helping you see something that goes far beyond waking up early and drinking water and meditating. I want you to see the ripple effect. The way a great morning does not just improve your morning. It improves everything. When you wake up with intention and move your body, your physical health improves. But it does not stop there. Better physical health gives you more energy. More energy gives you more focus at work. More focus at work gives you better results. Better results give you more confidence. More confidence changes how you show up in your relationships. Better relationships give you deeper emotional nourishment. Deeper emotional nourishment makes you more creative, more patient, more generous. And all of that circles back to the next morning, where you wake up feeling more alive than you did the day before. And so the cycle builds. Not in a straight line, but in a spiral, always moving upward. This is the ripple effect of morning mastery. And it is not theoretical. It is the lived experience of every person who has ever committed to a serious morning practice and stuck with it long enough to feel the compound returns. Let us talk about relationships first, because this is one that people rarely expect. When you wake up having already taken care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, you bring a fundamentally different quality of presence to every relationship in your life. You are not depleted. You are not reactive. You are not bringing the residue of a stressful, unintentional morning into your conversations with your partner, your children, your colleagues, your friends. You bring instead a person who has already done the work of centering themselves, who is already filled up before being asked to give. The most common complaint in struggling relationships is some version of you are never really present. You are always distracted, always stressed, always halfway somewhere else. And the uncomfortable truth is that presence is not just an emotional quality. It is a physiological one. When your cortisol is high, when your nervous system is in a reactive state, when your mind is cluttered with unprocessed anxiety and unfinished mental business, your brain literally cannot fully attend to another person. The neural resources required for genuine empathy and presence are the same ones being consumed by stress and distraction. You cannot be fully there for someone else when you have not been there for yourself first. A master morning practice changes this. When you have already breathed deeply and moved your body and sat in silence and clarified your intentions, you arrive at your relationships with capacity, with room, with the ability to actually listen, to actually see the person in front of you, to be genuinely, fully present in a way that the exhausted, reactive, screen-addicted version of yourself simply cannot manage. Now let us talk about work and creativity, because this is where the ripple effect becomes almost unfair to those who have not discovered it yet. Creativity, real creativity, does not happen in meetings. It does not happen in your email inbox. It does not happen when you are multitasking or context switching or trying to process 17 different demands simultaneously. Creativity happens in the quiet spaces, in the moments of flow that emerge when the mind is calm enough, spacious enough, and focused enough to make connections between seemingly unrelated things. And the morning, a well-designed morning, is the greatest generator of those conditions that exists. There is a reason so many writers, artists, musicians, scientists, and entrepreneurs describe the early morning as their most creative time. It is not just preference. It is neurology. The brain in its rested, calm, early morning state is operating at a frequency that is genuinely more conducive to lateral thinking, to making unexpected connections, to seeing problems from new angles. The ideas that come to you in the morning, when you have journaled and moved and stilled your mind, are qualitatively different from the ideas that come at the end of an exhausting day of meetings and screens and noise. When you protect your morning, you protect your creative output. And your creative output, over the course of a career and a life, is the primary measure of your contribution to the world. Whatever you create, whether it is products or services or art or relationships or organizations or ideas, you create it with your mind. And your morning is how you prepare your mind. Let us talk about finances. This might seem like a stretch, but stay with me. The connection between morning habits and financial outcomes is actually deeply researched and highly consistent. Studies of high-income earners consistently show that they are more likely to wake up early, exercise regularly, read consistently, and have some form of daily reflection practice than people at lower income levels. Now, Correlation is not causation, and there are obviously many factors that determine financial outcomes. But the connection makes intuitive sense when you understand the mechanism. Financial success in almost every field is a function of decision-making quality over time. The person who makes better decisions more consistently, day after day, year after year, compounds those decisions into dramatically better outcomes. And the quality of your decisions is directly tied to the quality of your mental state. When you are rested, calm, physically healthy, emotionally grounded, and mentally clear, you make better decisions. You see opportunities others miss. You resist impulsive choices that feel good in the moment but cost you later. You think more clearly about risk and reward. You are more patient, more strategic, and more resilient. A great morning practice is a decision-making optimization system. Every ritual we have discussed in this audiobook, the movement, the stillness, the journaling, the planning, all of it serves to bring you to your day in the best possible cognitive and emotional state. And that state, maintained consistently over years, produces compounding returns that show up in your bank account, your career, your reputation, and your sense of what you are genuinely capable of. Now I want to talk about something that does not get discussed enough in conversations about morning routines and self-improvement. I want to talk about meaning. At some level, all of us are searching for a life that feels meaningful, not just successful by external measures, not just productive or efficient or optimized, but genuinely meaningful. A life where we feel we are contributing something real, becoming someone worthy of our own respect, living in alignment with the values we hold most deeply. And this is where the morning, perhaps unexpectedly, becomes one of the most spiritual practices available to us. When you wake up every morning and you choose, deliberately, to invest in yourself before the world demands anything from you, you are making a statement. You are saying, my growth matters. My inner life matters. Who I am becoming matters. Not because it makes me more productive or more impressive or more successful by someone else's measure, but because I am a human being and I deserve to live with intention. That statement, made every morning in the quiet of your rituals, slowly rebuilds your relationship with yourself. And the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship, every other pursuit, every other dimension of your life. You cannot build a truly great life on a foundation of self-neglect. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot give generously from a place of depletion. The morning is how you fill up. It is how you return to yourself. It is how you remember, daily, in practice rather than just in theory, that you matter, that your life is worth taking seriously, that the person you are becoming is worth investing in. And here is what I have seen, again and again, in the people who commit to morning mastery and sustain it. They do not just become more productive. They become more themselves. The noise falls away. The comparison fades. The anxiety quiets. And what remains is clearer, more confident, more purposeful. They stop chasing the life they think they should want and start building the life that actually fits who they are. That is the deepest ripple effect of all, not the better work performance or the improved relationships or the physical health gains, though all of those are real and all of them matter. The deepest ripple effect is the recovery of yourself. The daily, ritualized, non-negotiable act of showing up for your own life before you show up for anyone else's. I want to leave you with something to carry with you long after this audiobook ends. Every morning you wake up, you are given a blank page. Not a half-written page from yesterday, not a page already filled with other people's writing. A blank page. And the question is always the same. What are you going to write on it? You can write the same thing you wrote yesterday, the same habits, the same patterns, the same quiet surrender to comfort and default and delay. Or you can write something new. Something deliberate. Something that, when you look back on it a year from now, 5 years from now, at the end of a long and fully lived life, you will be proud of. The morning is not just the beginning of your day. It is the beginning of the story you are telling about who you are. And that story, told one morning at a time, is your life. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off and the bed is warm and resistance whispers that today can be the same as yesterday, I want you to remember this. You have already decided. You decided when you listened to this audiobook. You decided when you kept going chapter after chapter. You decided when something in these words stirred something in you that recognized itself. You have already decided to be someone who masters their morning. Now all that remains is to do it. Rise. Breathe. Move. Wages. Be still. Learn. Plan. And go build the life that is waiting for you on the other side of your alarm clock. And one last thing, because this matters to me deeply, tell me in the comments what chapter of this audiobook hit you the hardest. Tell me what you are going to do differently starting tomorrow morning. Tell me your wake-up time, your first ritual, and one thing from these chapters that you are going to carry with you. I want to know. I want to celebrate with you. And I want this to be the beginning of something real for you, not just an audiobook you listened to once and forgot. If this audiobook gave you even one idea that has the power to change your life, please like this video right now and share it with one person who needs to hear it. There is someone in your life who is struggling with motivation, who wakes up every morning already defeated, who has forgotten that their life is still full of possibility. Share this with them. That one act of generosity might be the thing that changes everything for them. And subscribe, please. Because we are just getting started. There is so much more to explore, so many more tools to build, so many more mornings to master together. This channel is your community, and every week we go deeper. Your best morning is not behind you. It has not even happened yet. It is tomorrow, and tomorrow you are ready. Good morning, always.